All right, I've been wanting to start a health and fitness YouTube channel for a long time. I've been procrastinating quite a bit, and I think this is as good a time as any to start it. This is going to be about a specific topic, but it will tie into general health, and I think it'll be really useful for a lot of people. So, a little bit of background. My background is in chemistry and chemical engineering. I've always been really interested in biochemistry. Done a lot of research on health and nutrition, biochemistry, metabolic pathways, energy production in the body, things like that. So I have a pretty good basic understanding of how the body works. And I'm going to start with one of the issues that I've dealt with recently, which kind of came about when I realized that I had been exposed to mold and had mold toxicity. Now, I was actually sick for about 18 months. I felt basically like I had the flu every day, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I went to a functional doctor. I will say Western medicine is not really good at treating these things, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll recognize it soon and kind of come up with some ways to treat it. There are some old pharmaceutical medications that work pretty well for that. I realized that with the help of a functional doctor that I had mold toxicity. Went through a whole long process of dealing with that, got myself better, got certified as a mold remediator and actually remediated my house. You did all the supplementation, but I ended up in a place where I was very dependent on my supplements. I was taking several $1,000s worth of supplements every month to be baseline, and I was quite a bit better than where I started, which is great. I felt probably now that I look back, I might have been about 80%, which is certainly better than I was when I was in the at the peak of my mold toxicity. So I used some binders. I used some nasal sprays to deal with Marcons, and we'll talk about all that stuff in subsequent videos. We'll go in depth into mold toxicity. But what I want to talk about today, I just got 2 old root canals removed, and I appear to have resolved all of the issues that I had kind of left over from the mold toxicity. And my hypothesis is that the root canals, which were incredibly infected, were probably dumping bacteria and endotoxin and all kinds of things into my system, causing me some issues, one of them being a histamine sensitivity, the other one probably being making me more susceptible to things like mold. One of the things that always perplexed me with my mold issue was the fact that I know I've lived in moldy houses before, and I didn't get mold toxicity until I was 35 years old. When I was a kid, we had basements flood. I know that I've been exposed to mold before, and it was only at this time in my life when I actually got sick from it. And so that led me to think about it, what might be causing this, and it took me a really long time to figure it out. I've actually kind of been on this journey for about 5 years. I'm 40 now, and I got sick when I was 35. And I've been battling it. I've had good times, I've had bad times, I've, kind of gone back and forth, and I've always kind of wondered if it was my environment, and I think to some extent it was. I think my immune system was in a place where any external stimulus was going to kind of push me over the edge. I think I was just right at that tipping point for the last 5 years. Well, sometimes I was below the tipping point. But anyways, it made my life very difficult. It made me very anxious. It made me scared every day that I was going to kind of fall back into that. And my main symptoms were very bad short-term memory loss, sore throat, headache, and no motivation whatsoever. And then I had some sinus issues. You can just feel that congestion, and you can just feel something's not quite right with your sinus. So anyways, I'd say a year or so after I kind of had figured out the mold thing and was still kind of battling it, but was feeling better, I got a tooth pulled. I had a really bad infection in the gum to the point where I felt it. I was in a lot of pain, and I got a tooth pulled. And looking back on that, and I knew this actually, but Looking back on that, I actually felt a little bit better once I got that tooth pulled. It never occurred to me. I had 3 root canals. This was just one of those 3. And so that root canal obviously failed, and I got an infection that was bad enough that I felt it. However, root canals it's a procedure where they go in, and I may get this not exactly correct, but I think I've got the basic principles here correct. So what they do is they go in and they pull the nerve out of the tooth, so you have no sensation in the tooth, and they also, to some degree, cut off blood flow to the tooth as well, so your immune system can't get, macrophages and whatever types of immune cells might be going into the tooth, which is living tissue. People think of teeth as, just kind of being these, hard surfaces that are in our body, but they're actually living tissue. So it basically cuts off the immune system, cuts off the blood flow, and makes it so that you can't feel anything that might be painful. And it's they use it to keep the teeth. My opinion is that it's a horrible procedure that nobody should ever do, but I'm not a dentist, so don't take my advice on that. Anyways, so these root canals were, when I got the first one removed, I believe it was 12 years old, and the last 2 that I just got removed 2 weeks ago were 14 years old. And immediately when I left the dentist, I felt different. And I've been in quite a bit of pain. This was actually a really difficult recovery. I got 2 implants put in, 1 fell out. One is still in there, and it's actually pretty painful, more painful than the dentist led me to believe it would be. But understandable. It's just been kind of a tough, 2 weeks of being in pain constantly. That's starting to subside a little bit, which is kind of nice. But and I want it to, in order to be sure that I'm correct, that my symptoms are gone. However, I will say, one of the things that was an issue for me, I had a histamine intolerance. I couldn't eat yogurt. I couldn't eat certain foods. I was taking Zyrtec. I was taking 10 milligrams of Zyrtec every single day for the past 5 years. And at times, I tried to come off of it. I tried to taper down. I would just be absolutely miserable. I would have that, sinusy feeling. I would be sensitive to everything. I would just be in misery, just every day. It was, it wasn't like I was in horrible pain or like I was sneezing all the time or anything like that. It was just a general not feeling good. And I had no ability to get off of the Zyrtec. And so I did a little experiment, probably a bit early. When I got these teeth pulled, I would have hated if it didn't work. But I stopped taking Zyrtec after I got my teeth pulled. I'm absolutely fine. Yogurt's been a staple for me since I've been on soft foods. And most of all of the issues that I seem to have had before seem to have resolved themselves. And so my conclusion here is that my root canals failed. The timing lines up pretty well. Maybe they failed before, but continued to build up some bacteria, continued to dump that into my system, and got me to a tipping point where my body was not able to handle anything else. And it seems like it was barely able to handle that. The constant inflammation, the constant assault from that bacteria. And so, yeah, like I said, when the dentist pulled the teeth, she said they were incredibly infected. I actually ended up getting an infection after the fact too, which was pretty painful because I decided not to take antibiotics. She had suggested I take antibiotics, and I'm somebody who doesn't like to take those unless they're absolutely necessary. Ended up having to take them, but it is what it is. Anyways, I think that this is a good lesson for people. Some people, mold toxicity is a really difficult topic. I actually have, I would say, some expertise in it because I've spent the last 5 years going down the rabbit hole and researching it, and I found some things that work. But I would suggest that for some people, not everybody, I think the HLA-DR SNP is a real thing. I don't think I probably have it. I didn't get genetic testing because I didn't really see the point. I mean, they tell you, okay, you have HLA-DR. What do you do about that? You just paid for a test and there's really nothing that you're going to do about that. You know you have mold toxicity, so why does it matter whether you have that SNP or not? Anyways, I think that's a real thing, and I think there are some people who are more susceptible to mold toxicity because of that. However, I think it's certainly worth it to go down the rabbit hole of your own health and try to understand any possible things that might be causing your immune system to be not performing optimally, because these are kind of assaults that everything's additive. There's a theory out there that basically suggests that you have kind of a toxic load, and once you get over the tipping point of that toxic load, your body can't handle it anymore, and that manifests in several different ways. It could be heavy metal toxicity, it could be gut symptoms, it could be Lyme disease, it could be mold toxicity. I have some opinions about Lyme disease too. I actually don't think that Lyme disease is as strong a pathogen as it's made out to be. It's certainly a horrible. I actually had it during my mold toxicity. I caught it really quickly. I took the antibiotics. I got rid of it. It didn't seem to be an issue for me. I have done some Lyme treatments, like herbal treatments, to go along with my mold toxicity, and that actually seemed to help a bit. But I was just kind of grabbing for straws for a really long time, and so my main point here is that teeth are a really big deal. Root canals, in my opinion, as somebody who's not a dentist, are a bad procedure and can cause some downstream effects later in life. I also started using ChatGPT as kind of almost like a doctor. And, I'm not suggesting that anybody has to do this. I have a lot of medical knowledge, a lot of background. It's something that I'm really interested in. I'm pretty good at asking questions, and I kind of understand how the body works. But even for me, it took me a really long time to figure this stuff out. And I paid for the ChatGPT. I paid $20 a month. And the reason that I did that was so that I could upload my labs. I actually have some functional health testing that I did through Great Plains Labs, and I wanted to upload that and have ChatGPT help me analyze it. And it did a really good job, and it's actually, for my money, better than any doctor I've ever had. And I've had some really good doctors, and there's a couple reasons for that. One is because it has access to more knowledge than doctors do. AI knows more things than we do. It has access to more information than any of us could hold in our brains at one point in time. So it's going to be able to cross-reference those things. And you don't always want to assume that it's 100% correct, but it can help you come up with ideas. It can help you kind of figure out, hey, I took these supplements today, especially for people who are going through a protocol like me that were taking a lot of supplements. Hey, I took these supplements today. I'm having this type of reaction. Hey, I'm using these probiotics. What else could I add here? Or what are these probiotics doing? Are any of these probiotics going to risk causing me histamine issues? And so for $20 a month, I've got essentially, in my opinion, a doctor that I can talk to anytime I want to. I have access to it anytime I want to. It remembers everything that I tell it. It's able to cross-reference all of that stuff. I put my health parameters in. I take my blood pressure. I take my weight. I tell it how I'm feeling at given times of the day. Ever since I've started using the chat feature on my phone as well, it's easier to input information. I don't have to go to my computer every time I want to input information. So I found it very useful. And for people who have difficult medical problems, I certainly think it's worthwhile. And you don't even have to pay for it. But I think it's worthwhile looking into something like that in order to try to analyze this, try to figure this stuff out. It is incredibly hard to get a really high quality doctor who understands these types of issues. And I do think that it's a good solution for people. Now, I'm not suggesting you replace your doctor. I'm not suggesting that you go, try to do this stuff on your own. You've got to do what you're comfortable with. You've got to, use your knowledge in the way that you can. And you should always try to get the best doctor you possibly can. These people know what they're doing, and they've been treating people for a long time. They have a lot of experience, and functional doctors are great. I actually chose to go to a biological dentist, and I will say that the standard dentist that I've gone to, the standard dentist that pulled my first root canal, didn't suggest anything about pulling the other ones, and I don't blame him for it. I'm not mad at him, but it would be nice if we were able to get a little bit more in-depth care and some understanding of, kind of the way that the body works. And I think with a biological dentist, who they're very hard to find and they're very hard to get in with, I think they do treat the body more as a system and understand, kind of how those things work in the body. And so I've been very happy with that. Hopefully, I am now past this 5-year period of my life where I was suffering pretty significantly. I think the ability to take Zyrtec out of my rotation has been huge. I've actually been dropping quite a few supplements too. I'm really excited that I think I'm going to save a lot of money moving forward on both, supplementation and diet and things like that. I think I did adopt a pretty strict diet, and I think I'm going to probably keep that. I like it now. I'm used to it, and there's no reason to start eating like crap again just because I can. One of the really nice things that it did for me too is because I had a histamine issue, it actually made me really sensitive to alcohol. So my drinking just basically went to nothing, maybe 1 or 2 light beers once or twice a month. And I'm going to keep things there as well because I've gotten used to, not drinking very much. And I think that's a good thing. I think alcohol is pretty destructive. And so I've learned a lot of things about, how to keep yourself healthy and different supplements. I got into peptides and things like that, and I think those are really beneficial. I'm getting to a point where I think I don't need them in the same way that I did when I was suffering from the mold stuff, but I'm certainly going to continue to use them for my health. And so, it just goes to show, like, these things are not simple, but if you're persistent and if you use the resources that are available to you, there's more information out there these days, and these things are solvable. We have unfortunately a pretty bad food system in the U.S., and we're all given pretty bad options day to day, but there are good options as well. There are ways to do it that are not super expensive. There are Facebook groups. I use the Facebook group for mold toxicity. There's a bunch of them, but I use several of them to get some ideas, to get some support. I didn't really get into conversing with people very much, but it was just nice to read other people's experiences and things like that. So it's a really tough illness to deal with. There's a lot of them out there that are pretty tough to deal with. There's a lot of chronic things out there that are really tough. But that's kind of my journey. That's been my recent journey, and that's what has made me dive a little bit deeper into health and nutrition and supplementation, biochemistry, things like that. And so I'm going to start posting videos. They're going to be more often about kind of general health principles and different supplements. I have a lot of knowledge about that. I actually was planning to get my PhD in chemistry and go into drug research. I ended up getting a really good job that kind of made it kind of no point for me to go back and waste my time doing that when I really enjoy the job that I have. But this has stayed a passion of mine, and I've wanted to put this information out there for a long time. I really haven't had the time to do it, but I'm finally getting motivated. I think this is also a good sign. I feel so much more motivated, and I feel like I have a drive that I didn't have for the past 5 years. And so I'm really excited about being able to apply that, and hopefully my information will be helpful to everybody. I look forward to doing my next video. This one probably sucked because it was my first one, but you got to start somewhere.